nice window there. Where are you located?
Yeah. I'm in my one of my day rooms that
Oh,
I like do drawing and you
what
know
what part of
stuff
the
like
world?
that. Oh, the world, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Oh, okay, very nice. You're having a
Yeah,
nice sunny day.
yeah, it
Um,
is. It's really clear sky.
Beautiful. So you've um you've been married for a long time now, and
Well, we didn't marry. We married after 7 years of just living together.
sure.
I
When
met
did,
him when I was 16.
yeah, okay. So you've known him for a long time.
Yes,
Well,
pretty
you've been
much
married
since
for a
like my.
long. You've known him for a long time, and you've been married
Mhm.
for a long time.
Yeah, we married in July of 1990,
Wow.
right after our second son was born.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my husband's from Mexico, so
And what's your ethnic background?
mine is Native American. I'm Ojibwe.
Okay, Ojibwe. I
Mm.
actually had a good friend in college who was Ojibwe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I went to school in Canada, and they have a large native population there.
They do, and it just so happens where I was born. I was born on the Turtle Mountain Indian Reservation, and it's just like maybe 7 miles off the Canadian border
Yeah,
where I
true.
was born. So I could have like relatives in Canada. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Before all the borders were created, I'm sure that we were connected.
I'm sure you were. I'm sure you
Yeah.
were, but you never lived on the reservation.
Oh, I did. I was born on the
Okay,
reservation.
and you grew up there as well?
I
Sorry.
grew up to the
Yeah.
to the age of 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
And then I moved to,
yeah, go ahead,
sorry.
Patricia. Tell me.
Oh, I moved to Minneapolis when I was the summer I turned 16. And I think I was only here about a month when I met my husband. He approached me when I was walking back from the convenience store with my little sister. And my little sister's like, don't talk to him. Don't, because we couldn't really understand him very well. He didn't speak very well English. And I did wind up talking to him, and he walked us home. And I don't think that was a safe thing to do because we were just kids.
Sure, but that's true. And he was a little bit older.
He was 23, I think, when we met.
Yeah, because you're a
Oh,
67 birthday, he's a 60 birthday,
hmm
and it's Virgo meets Pisces.
hmm And he was born in Mexico.
Yeah, but you have a decent amount of earth in your chart.
hmm
You have a very calm, stable subconscious undercurrent. Your moon is sitting in Taurus. It allows you to
hmm
navigate struggles really well to stay to the Piscean energy can be a little bit emotional and a little bit can be a little bit vulnerable, but your
Right.
subconscious is
hmm
sitting firmly in Taurus. And in Taurus, it will just hold things together. It's a calming, stabilizing, consistent, responsible energy.
hmm I
It would allow you to connect healthily with the Virgo, actually.
right. But like in the relationship, I never felt respected, or loved, really loved. He had like a really controlling personality. He wanted
Yeah,
to control, the family, including my kids and me. He wanted control over everything throughout all these years. Like a bit of a narcissistic personality,
yeah,
I've come to realize.
I
So
know.
it's been pretty rough, really, with the marriage.
I think what's really tricky is that if you met him when you were a teenager and you were with him for 7 years prior to marriage, and now you've been married for 36 years,
hmm
all those,
Well, not well, just partially because we married in 1990, but we've been together 36 years.
excuse me, so you've been married for 29 years, together for 36 years.
hmm hmm
Um, so like when from a spiritual standpoint, when two souls come together and they spend such a phenomenal amount of time in union, like you guys have unified now for most of your adult lives,
hmm
and it was cooperative and loving enough that it was compatible to create a family, to raise three children. Your children are happy and healthy.
They have like a really, disconnection with their father.
Okay.
because of his controlling behavior. And it's not complete. I mean, they are their mother's sons, you know. They're very close to me, you
Okay.
know.
So I,
We have a very deep connection,
it
you know,
is,
with
yeah. So let me just understand it. So is Ramiro still in the household?
he is, and I think that's a part of the big struggle is we're trying to come to a conclusion on whether he stays in the house or I stay in the house. And we did agree that I would stay because prior I left him 2 years ago. I left him for 2 years. I moved out of the house, and got cancer, and I just agreed to come back and help him because I really do. I care about him because he's been in my life for so long, and he is the father of my children. So I came back to take care of him and maybe see if we could work something out, and it didn't go very well. The cancer cleared up, and he got well. He went through a surgery, and then it just started slipping back into the same behaviors, controlling behaviors,
So
and
so Patricia, today's discussion
mhm,
is going to be more about you and less about him.
okay.
I'm
Okay.
gonna, I'm gonna,
I
I'm, go- I'm gonna be, I'm in your service, and I'm gonna help you understand
mhm
kind of the dynamic and the energy that brought you into the, it's a resonance. There's a compatibility. It's grown more dysfunctional from the sounds of it, but
yeah
there's a degree of energetic resonance that's united the two of you now for a very long time. And it
mhm
sounds like it's hitting some more turbulence. And so obviously it's been breaking down for a number of years.
right
But energetically, there was enough there for you, even when he couldn't speak English, to pull him into your space and for you to
mhm
receive him. And
mhm
after 7 years of dating, to marry and then to add 3 children into the family unit.
mhm
And that's not a random event. That's because the two souls that inhabit your body and his body had decided prior to this incarnation to come together.
mhm okay
The difference is that now where you are, it's what's known as an inflection point where you get to decide where you want to go from here.
mhm
But the way that you make the best possible decision is to understand you, your energy, your motivation, and ultimately where you want to carry your life as you move forward.
mhm
Does that make
makes
sense?
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So the first question I'm going to ask you, not related to your husband directly, is what was your father's birthday?
It was 12/5 of 1939.
And did you have a relationship with your dad?
It we didn't have a good connection. My father was an abusive narcissist also to my mother and to his children, and it wasn't a good relationship.
This shows a lot of chaos in the house. What was there? Did it feel as if you didn't have any, like it was on the your upbringing? There's a lot of karmic energy that carried into this incarnation and would have shown energetically with an absent. Was he an absent father?
He was in every aspect, but he was there, but very abusive, but not there
So not
in
a so
any.
not so not as a father.
Right. It was a very unsafe childhood.
Yeah,
My
you.
father was.
It shows you had no control over the circumstances around you, and that you were terribly affected by feeling as if there was an unpredictability of what was going to come next.
Yeah, my father was a pedophile.
Oh, that's even more than what I was seeing.
Yeah, and he did go to prison later in my life. I think I was probably maybe about 24, 25 when they finally got him and he went to prison, and he died in prison.
So you can I don't you can answer whatever you're comfortable talking about, but were you ever a victim of his pedophilia?
I was. I
Yeah.
had three sisters, and they were also affected by it. He had 9 children with my mother.
Yeah. So you had 9 children with your mother, and then he abused these children.
And also my mother. Yeah. I'm not sure about my brothers, but I know all three of my sisters were affected.
Patricia, I'm feeling too much. I'm feeling so much coming through right now. You've done, I'm sure you've done quite a bit of work around this.
Yeah, I've been to some therapy for it, and when I was in my 20s, and just kind of coming out of it on my own, you know, looking into things, meditation, and you know,
So,
I've tried over the years.
so your chart, it's interesting because so there's a complexity to a natal chart, but it shows, of course, the soul's intention, and the soul has decided on different struggles prior to you arriving that it felt would help you navigate whatever it was that it wanted to learn and grow through, basically. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because your chart does show the abusive, it shows an absent and then a traumatizing and abusive childhood. It has a placement for rape or sexual abuse. It's actually positively aspected. I'll explain that in a minute. And then it
Mm-hmm.
calls it into the house of the home. So you've got what are known as relationships or aspects between these major aspects, major parts of your chart that are connecting those three dots. So the karmic intention, which is a soul's path, which carried into an absentee father, which is sun in the 12th house, in this case, conjunct with Chiron, and then carrying all the way up into the 8th house, which is the unseen, the hidden, the taboo, or the secretive parts of our lives, which in your case has a challenging planet. It has Neptune sitting right in Scorpio, and then down to the 4th house. All of that
Mm-hmm.
energy is happening in water placements, which is all the emotions around it. It's the ability to properly feel it would have been incredibly, incredibly valuable for you to go and process what you're going through. I say all of that because as difficult as it sounds, it's all healthily related, which
Mm-hmm.
means that you have the capacity when you have good aspects to work through these struggles and not to let them override your life and your well-being.
Mm-hmm.
But these were the struggles that you carried into this incarnation that have manifested through right from the beginning. And it's that same energy that would have made it okay for you to be involved with a controlling or narcissistic husband and for you to tolerate those circumstances for an awfully, awfully long time.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
If not for the qualities of your father, if not for his abusive tendencies, certainly if not for the pedophilia and all these different experiences, the ability for you to be as accepting and patient with your husband's more challenging qualities would never have been there.
Mm-hmm.
The question now is that if your husband has grown so difficult to be with, insofar as the kids don't have a relationship with him and you don't have a relationship with him, or it's not a healthy one, you had the opportunity and you did leave a few years ago, but there was enough there in your compassionate side, as well as your own desire to be back with him, that you ended up returning when he needed you.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're going through a divorce now,
I haven't applied for it yet, but we're living in the same house, but we're not like as a married couple. I live in my own space, and he lives in his own space within the house.
so what if I presented you with two choices, which is, I mean, you guys have some distance between you, but let's say he literally were to get his own place because you've decided to keep the home. And let's say that you were just the mother raising the kids and that there was no replacement to your husband.
Mm-hmm.
That your choices are being the single mother raising kids, knowing that your husband will show up every so often or tug at you every so often or fight with you every so often or control you every so often, but otherwise be out of the home. And that by virtue of that, he'll be more and more distant, less involved in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that you will then be the single woman. Or
Mm-hmm.
option two, the circumstances that you have now just persist for longer with him under the same roof, and that dance that you guys have been doing for a long time? Which of those is more appealing to you?
The first one.
First one.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. But the problem with it right now is he won't give me the house. He's not planning on it. He says it's going to take him months to prepare to leave. Then he twists it every time we talk. Like, okay, now I don't want to leave the house.
Yeah, I
You
understand.
know, after he's agreed to leave the house, then he changes it.
But
So I think I might be the one to have to leave the house.
it's possible.
Hmm.
Possible, but
That's what
how?
I'm thinking.
Remind me the age of the kids.
23.
Okay, so let's just, so the 23-year-old is out of the house. He's on his own.
No, he lives home. He lives here too.
Okay, so 23,
Hmm.
and from there.
Then I have a 29-year-old who will be turning 30, and he lives in we have like a what would you call it? Like outside the house, we have a little cabin
Okay,
where
so it's like
he's renting it.
like a guest house.
Yeah, a guest house. He's renting that, because he's a single guy and he, doesn't want to roommate with anybody.
Okay.
And we had this space available, so he wanted to rent it. So
All right.
he's on our property, but he doesn't live in our house.
And he has an income, so he can
He
support
has an
himself.
income. Yeah, he
Yeah.
supports himself.
All right, and so then 23, 29, going on 30, and the third?
Then I have a 34-year-old who's going to be turning 35, who lives on his own. He has
Like
15-year-old twins.
these kids are they're all adults.
Yeah.
They may not behave like adults all the time.
Right.
And if what you're describing is true, and that is that dad has been a little bit difficult at times, then maybe it's impaired or stunted their own growth and personal development. But if mom has been there, and mom has been loving, and mom has been responsible, and mom has been dependable,
Hmm.
then there's been enough stability that these kids are on their own feet,
Hmm.
right? And so really what
Yeah.
it comes down to, and this is probably not a question that you've asked yourself in earnest most of your life, but that is, what does Patricia really want? Like your
Hmm.
chart is incredibly sacrificial.
Is it? I'm not
Yeah.
surprised.
Your chart,
I want.
this is the Mother Teresa of Minneapolis.
Wow.
I mean, because there's so much there's a dedication and devotion and a willingness to forego your own identity in the interest of the needs of others.
I work in the medical field also.
There you go.
I take care of
And you
people
feel
every
really
day.
good. Exactly. You feel really good helping others. And it probably at times at your own expense, even if you're overtired or, like if your needs
Yeah.
aren't being met, but as long as you're providing for others, this kind of energy is perpetually in service at the
Hmm.
expense or without even realizing that they're sacrificing their own well-being to do it. And you know what? That's in the practical tools, the practical measurement. It's also with regards to your identity. This kind of energy carries you so far that you're so occupied with the needs of others that you don't even really know who you truly are at times.
Right.
It's hard
I
to
agree.
figure out. This chart makes it hard to figure out who you are. And if you don't know who you are, then you can't possibly really know what you want.
I feel like I actually do know what I want at this point. I want peace in my life and I
Perfect.
want happiness.
Perfect.
Hmm.
So, but in your case, peace and happiness, you can create a peaceful surrounding, a peaceful setting.
Hmm.
So we can go through the practical discussion of moving your husband out of the house, and if he doesn't go, then moving Patricia out of the house, right? So you can figure out
Right.
the practical, but you're still going to feel best if you're able to help others and care for
Hmm.
others.
Right.
Like, and if if you were to leave again and then he got sick again or he fell down the stairs or something tragic happened and he's like, Patricia, I need you to come back. I can't do this
Hmm.
alone. You know how hard it is for me. The cancer's come back and it's worse this time.
I wouldn't come back.
Okay.
I
And then,
wouldn't.
so then that's all we have to do is move you out of the
Hmm.
house.
Yes, I agree. And I wouldn't have any really communication with him at that point, because our kids are grown. We don't really have
Your
a
kids, you don't
reason.
have to, yeah, you don't have to worry about the kids,
Mm-mm.
darling.
No, they're grown, so
No,
it's the perfect time.
yeah, I mean, I love this time for you.
Hmm.
I love this time for you. There's nothing in your chart right now from a transit standpoint that would interfere with this either.
Hmm.
There's a little bit, the last few years were harder, but that a lot of that
Hmm.
pain actually would have set you up for right now, which is a lot more liberating.
Hmm. Right.
So let's go to a practical discussion. How are your finances?
Not very good because right now I can't pick up hours. I took out a loan for a vehicle because my one of my sons totaled my vehicle, and I had to sell it and then rebuy, and then I had to refinance a new car. Well, it's not brand new, but it's a decent car.
Which of the kids totaled the car?
My oldest,
So you're
the father of the twins,
so the 34, 35-year old. Okay,
totaled my car, and I had just paid it off 6 months before he totaled it.
okay. So was there insurance on the car?
Yes, that's how I was able to. They gave me an amount back. Then, because it was totaled, I just went out and refinanced another car with the money they gave me. Plus, I still, owe on that loan.
All
So I'm
right.
paying that monthly,
Well, in theory, your eldest son owes on that loan.
right?
I
He's
mean,
still working on it,
you were
and he's in a
fine.
struggle too.
You were fine with your fully paid off car.
I was. I was. I was perfect.
Perfect. All right.
And then
So
everything just changed.
all right. Well, let's do some blocking and tackling, as they say. Let's do some of the practical stuff. So you have a
Hmm.
car payment, which is a byproduct of an unfortunate accident. Uh,
Hmm.
do you have and you have an income from your work
Hmm.
in medical
Right.
in right?
In the medical field, yeah.
It's a
Oh, very
consistent.
consistent, yeah. But as what's going on right now, I can't really pick up too many hours.
Yeah, but this will come
Yeah,
to pass over the next few months.
yeah. But it's a good, steady income.
So you have a good steady income. You have some simple car payments, which is just maybe if
Hmm.
hopefully no more than a few $100 a
Yeah,
month.
it's just 250 a month. I took the lowest standard
Okay,
payment that I could pay every month.
so 250 a month for the car.
Hmm.
Um, the home that you're in now is fully paid for at this point.
No, we pay a mortgage on
Okay,
this house.
so if you were to leave, have you and your husband talked through the financial implications of leaving?
Yeah, he said he would buy me out, and
Okay,
he would want to just put his name,
on the title,
on the lead,
on the
on
deed.
the deed, and it would just be him. So I
Okay,
would come off the deed, and he would pay me to come
that's
off the deed.
that's brilliant, actually.
Yes, I
So,
know. I was thinking about that.
so if he's in a position to do, or really, he might just refinance the home to buy out your
Hmm.
portion to take on a larger mortgage and to give you a lump sum around it.
I'm thinking that's what he's planning to do. And I would be okay with that, to leave and possibly just go buy like maybe a motorhome or something like that,
Yeah,
just to start out with.
or you just rent a place for the first year and just get your
Hmm.
bearings and just see what it's like for the first time in your adult life to be living alone.
That's true. That's very true. That makes sense.
Like just dip your toe in the water there and just get
Hmm.
comfortable with it and see how what kind of flow you get into and how it feels to come back
Hmm.
to your own space, and
Hmm.
whether it's working for you and you go on a few dates and you reconnect with friends
Hmm.
and families in ways that you haven't been able to for a long time and you get into a different rhythm for a while.
Yes, that sounds wonderful.
You're in that position,
Hmm.
right? Like
Okay.
your health is okay.
Yeah. I did get the virus, and but my test came back negative. But other than that, I have great health.
So
You
you
know,
got through the virus.
I did. I got through it
So even
because I'm a
better.
healthy
You
person.
have
I was able to heal very quickly.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
you're spiritually aligned too. So
Mhm.
if you have the immunity or the antibodies to the virus, which is what
Mhm.
everyone's so worried about, and
Right.
you have steady income,
Mhm.
and your husband, even though he's going to change his mind at different points and try to control you around it and be difficult, but if he's willing, and you'll get legal
Mhm.
representation if you have to, but
Right.
if you get an assessment on the home and he's willing to give you your fair share, and you actually wind
Mhm.
up with a lump sum of cash, which
Right.
is which is just a lump sum of cash, and you can put it in some type of simple healthy investment that will give
Mhm.
you a few percent so you never have to worry about it, but generates a bit of an income for you
Mhm.
while you find your own home,
Right.
and then consider what it would be like to live alone, and then eventually consider possibly buying your own place when you're ready.
Mhm.
This is a rebirth of sorts, Patricia. This is you moving to a
Yes.
new beginning.
Yes. I can see that and feel that.
Yeah, even with
Mhm.
me trying to kind of challenge you on it, you've stood your ground just fine.
Mhm. Yes. I'm ready for it.
Seems like
Definitely ready.
seems like it.
Mhm.
So then go if we go a little bit deeper with the conversation. So other than the home, are there any other shared assets or liabilities that need to be considered at this point?
No.
This is like
No, it would just be the home.
this is one of the cleaner separations then, because the kids are no
Mhm.
longer dependents. There's no concern around
Mhm.
custody,
Right.
right?
That's true.
Your husband can take care of himself as best he
Mhm.
can,
Right. With considering his health situation.
considering his health situation.
His health situation.
And so what I mean, it's always nice when a couple, it's rare, but it's nice when a couple can have a healthy conversation or a series of conversations and go through the motions and come to their own
Mhm.
terms, because you can save a fortune in legal fees and you can just go, and usually you even create a bit of a cooperative. So that kind of energy is like, okay, we're working together to grow apart, as
Yes.
opposed to we're fighting with each other, which makes energetically, it makes it harder to create distance when there's conflict which
Mhm.
is pulling you together. And so
Mhm.
if you're able to cooperate, which is to work healthily with each other, to come to a fair agreement on the home
Mhm.
gets independently assessed, and then your portion of it is given to you as a byproduct of his refinancing of it. And then otherwise, it's just a matter of you finding somewhere else to live in the short term. And there's plenty of places that you can rent
Yeah.
in a fun
Oh
part
yeah.
of town, which makes it easy to commute, but also
Mhm.
to be like, maybe you can walk out your door and socialize and have bars and clubs and restaurants, whatever it is that you enjoy doing with your free time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're literally going to go forth and just give it, like, the only real commitment around it is a 1 year lease, just to see how you
Mhm.
do for a while.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes.
it's a different energy. We don't realize it. Sometimes the energy in our space is such that we dislike it, but we grow so accustomed to it that we'd rather that energy there than to be totally on our own. You
Mhm.
kind of had a trial run a couple of years
I
ago,
know.
and
Yeah.
you did okay for 2 years, but there was enough of a desire to be in service that when he really needed you, you came back.
Mhm.
That's okay.
Exactly.
And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
But now you have a taste of perhaps what it would look like if you were to do it again. And maybe you come back after 2 years, but maybe this time you really don't.
I think I'm done. I feel like I'm totally done.
Yeah,
And I think he's ready too.
when the and he's ready to let you go, you
He's
think.
ready. Yes. He told me he's ready.
You know, if he lets you go, he may let go of the rest of what he's attached to here.
Mhm. Yeah. Which would be good for him.
Well, that might mean moving on from this realm altogether.
Oh, possibly. That's a possibility. He's 60 now.
Yeah, but with chronic health challenges.
Right.
Yeah, there's a
Exactly.
when the journey is too misaligned, right? The vibration from our life, which is what we experience with our emotions, when the misalignment is so great that we're creating, it's temper and tears. When you're witnessing a lot of
Mhm.
temper and tears, that's an
Mhm.
indication typically of severe misalignment. As the
Mhm.
years go by, the emotional misalignment creates a vibration that ends up impairing the physical body. And then after a number of years, the physical body manifests illness as a result. And if the path isn't corrected, the vibrations stay, and then eventually the soul gives up, the body shuts down, and the incarnation comes to an end, so that they
Mm-hmm.
can return, evaluate, and then consider doing it again.
I see. Yeah.
That's, there's a big metaphysical or spiritual underpinning at work here that the human mind doesn't realize most of the time. But the
Mm-hmm.
energy that you carried into this incarnation has been your life just as it was planned prior to you arriving.
Mm-hmm.
And my guess is that your husband is off his path further. But the two of you definitely decided to do this dance for a while together to see how you would do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if
And I
all,
was very submissive, in the relationship when I was younger. I just let him control everything because I didn't want to fight with him. I didn't want to argue or, you know,
and,
so I just let him have all the control.
yeah, and maybe because you were comfortable with him being in control.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it may have been that you didn't want to fight, but part of it may have been that it was just comfortable for you to let somebody
Mm-hmm.
else control it all.
Right. I agree.
And that's wonderful that we kind of recognize that that was where we were in those years. But if we're
Mm-hmm.
no longer that person, then to be in a controlling marriage doesn't work for us anymore.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right? Like
Agree.
if if oh, if
I think it's okay.
yeah, it's no, I think we're doing pretty well actually.
Mm-hmm.
So like if we think of it this way, if for many years your husband wanted to control everything, and for many years you were okay, submissive, okay being controlled or being in a controlled environment, then that's
Mm-hmm.
the it's a degree of dysfunction, but that's the compatibility that has you two united.
Okay.
If the day comes where you're no longer in that state of compatible dysfunction because you no longer want to be in an unhealthily controlled space, or your husband has gotten so controlling that he's just impossible to be around,
Mm-hmm.
then that compatible dysfunction starts to break down. And sometimes it descends into even lower vibrational energy. It can
Mm-hmm.
be abuse and conflict, like to a new level. Or in
Mm-hmm.
your case, you're just trying to elevate your way out of it.
Yeah, it came to that point where it was just I couldn't stand it anymore. It was just too much for me to be under that kind of control, or he was trying to force it on me more when I came back.
Yeah.
And I just got to the point within myself where I'm like, enough is enough.
So,
I'm a grown woman, I'm a grandmother, I'm a mother. I don't need this in my life anymore. I don't want to be controlled.
yeah.
And he wouldn't stop. He just wouldn't stop. And it was getting worse,
What,
actually.
what did it look like? What was he doing?
He was silent treatment for days, until, like in the past, I would break down and say, fine, I'll do what you want me to do. Because of the silent treatment would just get me to that point where I just say fine. But I didn't say fine this time. I'm like, if that's the way you want to behave, then you can be by yourself.
He
Go
could,
be by yourself.
yeah, he could go to a monastery and be in silence for the rest
Hmm.
of the year.
Right. And that's how he's always tried to control me, was to make me feel, I think he's trying to make me feel, I don't know, bad or sorry for him or pity for him. I don't know what it is.
I feel sorry for him. I mean,
I have for a really long time. That's why I'm in the situation I'm in
well, so what if you feel sorry for him, but you don't want to be,
with him.
yeah, you don't want to be his victim?
Right.
What if we can just completely fill our hearts with a lot of love and compassion for his level of suffering, but
Hmm.
still choose not to be in his space?
Right. I can do that.
let's do that, because then you're
Hmm.
carrying, it's a win-win, right? Because then you have
Hmm.
the high vibrational energy, which is love and compassion, but coupled
Hmm.
with empowerment and independence.
Right. That sounds good. Like that's what I really want. I've always had a lot of compassion for him.
Yeah.
That's never really ended,
But,
you
but,
know.
but up until more recently, the compassion you had for him was exhibited in self-sacrifice.
Hmm.
It was, okay, he's suffering, I'm going to go ahead and prioritize him over me to try to alleviate his suffering.
Hmm.
But now you're going to say he's suffering, and that's no fun. I'm really quite compassionate, but I'm ready to live for me. And
Hmm.
it seems like it's time to move on from his space, as to let him reconcile whatever it is that he has to work on, but without me
Hmm.
there to try to hold him up every day.
Hmm. Right. And I don't know, with his jealousy kind of personality he has, if we could even be friends after the separation or divorce,
You don't,
because he still wants that back. He's always wanted that back, you know,
yeah.
that relationship of where he's the controller and I'm the victim. And
Yeah.
he wants it back still to this day.
I have a feeling you guys are going to be doing this dance for a long time to come. It's just a matter of how strong you are to not get sucked back onto the dance floor, so to speak.
Hmm.
You can dance from afar. I don't think that you need a friendship. Like, I don't think you need to go out for margaritas with him when you wind up in your own space.
I don't think that could ever happen,
Yeah, I don't
honestly.
think that you need it anyways.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
give
I
the
don't think so.
Pomeranian the margarita. Don't give it to your husband.
Right. Right. He
You know,
sleeps with me. My Pomeranian does.
yeah, well, then you're all set. You got all the love that you need. He's
I
got big
do.
floppy ears.
Yes. He's he's so wonderful. I just love him so much.
So I have a feeling that dog is one of the best cared for dogs in all of the Midwest.
He is. I cook him home
I,
cooked meals.
I have no
Organic.
I have
Organic.
I have no doubt how well you care for everybody in your life,
Hmm.
including that dog.
Yes, absolutely. He gets the best of everything.
So it sounds like you're having a bit of a rebirth or renaissance. This is like a breakthrough for you.
Yes, I think so.
And it's a breakthrough with the moon in Taurus and the energy in this chart. The breakthrough is not like diving through a glass window and like coming out through, a flaming house. The breakthrough is like
Hmm.
very, very slowly opening up the door,
Hmm.
checking the weather, seeing the
Hmm.
clouds, and over
Right.
time, your subconscious hates when things change.
Hmm.
This kind of
Okay.
energy is intractable, it's quite fixed, and ultimately it when it makes a decision takes a very long time. It can stick to that decision, but it moves at a remarkably slow pace, and then when it does come to a new decision, it moves at a remarkably slow pace to change that new decision, which is,
Good grief.
I know, but but the nice part is that it's incredibly stable and responsible and consistent.
Hmm.
Like life can be, there could be people dying all around you, and you'd be like, okay, we'll get through this. Like, let's
Hmm.
take care of them as best we can. Let's figure out what we have to do. It's not a panicky
Hmm.
energy. It's a very
Right.
strong, consistent, grounded energy.
And calm. I've had friends, coworkers tell me that I have such a calming energy and that they feel like they can tell me anything that they can't tell anybody in their lives. They can just tell me anything, everything.
Yeah, and that runs on two levels. The
Hmm.
first is what we're talking about, which is that calming quality. The second
Hmm.
is that you've been through so much that you're not
Hmm.
bringing any judgment to their space. You bring understanding.
Right.
And that becomes the gift of what we were talking about earlier. When somebody has this heaviness in their chart, these type of placements,
Hmm.
it positions them with a degree of compassion and understanding that is
Hmm.
quite remarkable.
I agree. Yeah.
And that's those are your beautiful talents. Those are the beautiful gifts that
Mhm.
you brought with, that you've evolved through and now have available to you to use as you want.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
That's
so
wonderful.
it's wonderful. I think you're going to have to hold these two energies though as you move down this path, and that is the understanding that you're most comfortable when you're in service and self-sacrificial. That's your greatest comfort. So
Mhm.
to be in service and to be self-sacrificial, generally find needy people that are usually a bit of a mess.
Mhm.
And so it whether you get legal representation or you don't, whether you wind up in a court or you don't, at some point, if you really desire true independence, you're able to secure true independence, which is to move out of the place. It'd be great if your husband's like, I give up, the house is yours, you buy me out.
Mhm.
And you'd be like, wonderful, let's do that. Because our son is happy in the backyard and I like having him there, right?
Yes.
But,
Yes.
but if your husband's not cooperative and you set a deadline like, hey, we're going to do this by, July 15th at the latest, and he doesn't adhere
Mhm.
to it, then you get a lawyer and you move out. What doesn't change is how you're going to feel when you're on your own. And as the months wear by, recognize that you're not caring for somebody and that there might be a part of you that really misses that constant state of service and sacrifice.
Mhm.
And you have to be strong in that point to say, okay, I do desire to care for another. It's just not my husband that I want to go back to.
Right. Mhm.
Maybe it's the grandkids, spending more time with them. Maybe if you pick up more hours at the hospital when the whole
Mhm.
virus comes to pass,
Yeah.
if it's charitable
Mhm.
work, if there's other friends or family, but that's your sweet spot. And that will always
I
call for
love caring for plants. Like
care.
I have a lot of plants. I love flowers, gardening. I love caring for plants and animals.
If I ever get sick, I am like really sick, I'm coming right to your place, wherever your new place. And I have a feeling you would
Mhm.
just take incredible care of me.
Yeah. Yeah. I do love to care for things.
Because you
That you're
carry,
right, that brings me the most enjoyment.
it does. It's just your journey is to recognize you don't want to be the doormat.
Right.
You can care for people, but the people that you're caring for can't create mental anguish or exploit your generosity.
Mhm.
That's the dynamic that you have with your husband. Sounds like it's grown unhealthy probably for many years, and your desire to care and to stay engaged with him allowed you to override your own emotional well-being.
Mhm.
And so it's
Yes.
that dynamic that you're responsible for. It's that dynamic that you don't want to have repeated.
Yes.
So the most beautiful thing to be is in service and in sacrifice to others, but as long as that devotion is healthily received and in some degree reciprocated.
Mhm.
Because otherwise you're creating a disharmonious or an unbalanced environment, and you're actually as responsible as the person who's taken for creating that disharmonious environment.
I agree with that. I've come to realize that over these last probably 5 years that, I need to be more responsible for my own life and my own happiness. And if I choose to stay in this, unbalanced relationship, it's just going to be that way for the rest of my life. Do I want that? Do I really want that?
And it's a choice that you would be making,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Your husband can tell you a million things, and he can have a terrible cancer and things could be awful for him, but regardless, it still is Patricia's choice to stay with him.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I've realized that.
Yeah, and so that's where you are. And to be frank, to be in this luxurious position where the practical underpinnings of your life are in order, which is to
Hmm.
have a healthy income and to have financial independence and to not be beholden to the liability of children at this stage. The
Hmm.
only thing that would be keeping you otherwise in this stuck environment is only the limitations up here.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
if you were unemployed and you had health challenges and you couldn't afford to leave because you would suffer even greater, like that would be a whole
Right.
different conversation. That's not your
All
reality.
right. No. Yeah, I'm very capable of bringing in my own income. Have been for years. I've worked through having my children, when they were smaller, working part-time out of the home, plus raising my children, always in the health field. And then to this day where I'm very well on my own income.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
this is the recap on that part of the conversation. You set a healthy deadline. It sounds like your husband is tired of fighting with you. He wants the home. If you have to get multiple appraisals so that you get a fair price that you both agree to, and then
Hmm.
you just run the math. He gives you the buyout, and
Then walk away.
walk away. The divorce papers get signed quietly a few months later
Hmm.
or at the same
Hmm.
time.
Right.
And then you do some simple, very modest, humble financial planning, and you square away where the money goes until you figure out what kind of permanent home you want for yourself.
Hmm. Right. I
Um,
think one of those two will work out,
yeah,
just to put them into action and start, actually acting on these.
yeah, and if it's not working as a cooperative between you, the legal resources will make it happen.
Yes.
The legal system is great at setting deadlines.
Hmm.
It's obviously expensive. There's considerations around it, but
Right.
so be it.
Hmm.
And that's part of the discussion you'll have with him as well. Like,
Hmm.
it's come to this point where I'd rather do this without having to involve, you know, too many lawyers, the court system, and so on and so forth. We're still going to have to go through it to get legally divorced. Right? You're still going to have to go
Right.
through it, but you can do a lot of the legwork yourselves to come up with what's fair
Hmm.
and then just present it.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
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 He's told me you want the divorce, so he said you need to pay for all of it because you're the one who wants it. He
Doesn't
said
really,
I don't want it.
it doesn't really work that way though.
Right. He would
Yeah.
have to pay for a portion of it, I'm sure.
But he'd have to get his own counsel. He'd have to have himself represented.
Hmm.
Otherwise, if you could hire an attorney to file the paperwork, but then he needs an attorney to help him argue his side. To be frank, at this point in your lives, there's a simplicity to it because the assets are so limited. It's just one
Hmm.
primary. It's a marital home that you
Yeah.
guys are separating. But it sounds like you're not going to depend on him ongoing, and he's not going to depend on you.
Right.
And the kids aren't going to depend on either of you.
Exactly.
And the doggy comes with you.
He definitely comes with me.
And then your plants come with you and you set up a new home
Hmm.
and you move out and you start over. It's a relatively simple process. It's not simple if he interferes with it or is non-cooperative, but
Hmm.
it is simple if he's able to go ahead and just agree to the terms that you guys have been talking about.
Yes. Exactly. Hmm.
You know him very well. You know what he's capable of. You know
Yes.
the stubbornness and the controlling qualities to him. So you're going to
Hmm.
navigate those waters. And if you're not successful, you're going to get help to get you through it.
Yes. I agree.
Patricia, I wanted to ask you, how did your siblings turn out?
Um, Not very well, to be honest.
They couldn't have.
No, I think I'm the more stronger one, the one that just kind of took life and just kind of went for it, and created my own, well, financial life. But since my marriage wasn't so well, that was the only downfall to my life. Other than that, I think I've done very well for myself. All my other siblings are just kind of, I don't know, they don't have a good income. Some of them still live on the reservation.
Yeah, which is a lot
Yeah,
of like alcohol abuse and such.
very poverty stricken, and alcohol, drugs play a part in their lives.
You
Hmm.
know, you know what else is ironic? You might be calm and stable, but when it comes to marital affairs, you have the ability to generate quite a bit of fight.
Hmm.
This is the
Yeah.
one part of your chart when push comes to shove.
Yeah.
I know
I
we're
believe
listening to
that's
this
true.
hearing about how terrible your narcissistic husband is, but there's an element in here that Patricia's like, I
Mm-hmm.
can fight if I have to.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
yours,
When you
you're,
feel pushed into a corner, you're just ready to let it all loose.
but
You
particularly
know?
towards your husband.
Yes. And he says that too. Why are you so nice to,
Everybody else.
everybody else, but when it comes to me, he's
Tell him
told me that many times.
this won't mean anything to him. It'll mean something to anybody who ever watches this video. Tell him you have Mars in Scorpio sitting in the seventh house, badly aspected, which means
Right.
but only as it relates to your. I mean, you can fight if you have to fight, but it's seventh house
Hmm.
means that in matters of marriage, it's going to be
Hmm.
particularly intense. Long-term
Right. And
committed
it has
relationships would
been.
foster this energy.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so your chart has beautiful devotion, which I love, but it has enough strength in there to allow you to stand up for yourself still, to not be exploited per
Hmm.
se. And it has enough harmony that even with these difficult struggles from your upbringing, it's what we were talking about earlier, you had the capacity to make your way through it.
Hmm.
So there are some struggles that happen that we never quite recover from. There are other struggles that
Hmm.
happen that we're able to use as opportunities for growth to allow us to springboard to a better place.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's a strong chart. It is a consistent, empowered chart with a
Hmm.
phenomenal degree of devotion and sacrifice.
Doesn't surprise me. It's
No,
totally me.
yeah,
Hmm.
and that's the life that you've been living.
Hmm.
And provided you're caring for yourself, your health is good, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, I became vegan back in 2014.
Oh, nice. Are
Yeah,
you?
I had a dream that it was like a very profound dream of this white lion and white tiger that came to me, and we were out in like a really beautiful country setting on a really country road. The ones that used to pull wagons on back in the day.
Yeah,
And
sure.
they were talking to me, and I don't quite remember what they were saying, but I woke up with this memory. From that time on, I couldn't eat meat. I had no desire. I couldn't stand it actually.
So interesting. Say it again. You said you woke up with a memory of, or you woke
Of
up.
them, the tiger and the lion with me. Hmm. And I would remember the ending of the dream where they were saying, "Now you have to go back. We love you." Um,
But
that's all I remember.
they wanted you to clean up your diet.
I think so. And I was able to give up meat completely. I haven't had it since,
That's
2013. It
that's
was the year it was January 2014.
that's tremendous. Especially,
Hmm.
the North Midwest. A lot of people rely on the heavier foods in those winter
Yeah,
months.
yeah. But I haven't been eating it all these years.
I love that.
So yeah, and I feel great. I mean, it has a really good effect on my health and my mental well-being.
Yeah, your emotional, mental, and energetic
Mm-hmm.
well-being.
Right. I feel like I became stronger mentally and emotionally from that time on.
That might have initiated some of the transition to start bringing you
Hmm.
more independence.
Right. Hmm. It was like a great awakening. I felt like I had suffered from panic attacks prior to giving up meat, also, like anxiety and panic attacks.
It's interesting. I wonder if
They were pretty strong.
you might have been absorbing some of the anxiety in the animals, what they were feeling.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. And those totally went away. They're totally gone.
It's
Hmm.
tremendous, isn't that?
It is. It's
So,
very tremendous.
so your physical, emotional being is suffering from the food that you're ingesting, and then spirit
Hmm.
comes through, which is your spirit guides communicate in your sleep state, which is how they can communicate,
Hmm.
give you an indication of what you need to change to heal
Hmm.
your physical and emotional being.
Right.
And then
And it worked out great.
yeah, you have the intuition to listen to it.
Hmm.
And that's the thing, when you hear or experience what's known as what's the truth, right? The truth is this high vibrational, the truth and wisdom is high vibrational energy that it just feels right and it calls to
Hmm.
us. And
Hmm.
so when you hear the truth, when you hear what is right, if you can really be in that still state, you can receive it and know that that's the direction to go in.
Hmm.
And so in your case, it came through in your sleep. There's a lot of people that would have woken up and been like, oh, that's nonsense. But,
Right.
but you knew it.
I felt it very deeply that it
And
was time to give it up.
and if that's the case, my guess is that you're getting a lot of indications of different things that you can do, choices that you can make,
Hmm.
because your
Hmm.
spirit guides want you to continue to evolve.
Right. Like I was called to listen to channeling Eric. Um, I love the channel. It, just hearing the stories, and yeah, Eric is such a. I even invited him to come to this reading, and he's probably here.
You might be here.
Yeah, but I love listening to him and his mom. They have so many great stories.
Yeah, I know. She's really done a lot of good work.
That's how I found you.
Okay. Yeah,
Hmm.
she likes having me on.
Yeah, she's
Pe-
so funny.
She's a character. She's an Aries.
Yes,
She's on the
she
Taurus
is.
cusp. She's got a lot of fire in her chart.
My
Maybe,
mom was an Aries.
yeah. So, and how was that?
Hmm. Not good.
Not good.
No, my mom didn't turn out good for her. She met another abusive man, and he was a drinker and an abuser, and he abused my younger sister sexually because my younger sister was still left with my mom. So it was like the same thing playing out for my mom.
Oh,
And she wound up going to prison with her second marriage, and that husband went to prison also for abusing my younger sister.
so after all that your mom went through with 9 kids and a pedophile of a first husband,
Father. She
she
met
married
another one,
another abusive man who continued.
pedophile.
Did she have more kids with him?
She didn't. She was done having kids by this point, but she
She
had my
brought,
younger sister, who was only like 8 years old when she met this man.
and he came in and abused her.
Hmm.
Is your mother still, is she still with us? Is she still walking this earth?
No, no. Her life just spiraled out of control after that marriage ended and she got out of prison. She met another man who was a drinker. He was a native guy. The first guy she met after my dad was a Polish man. And then that ended because of the abuse of my sister, and they both went to prison. And she came out and met this native man who was a drinker. And her life just kind of, and I never really had a close relationship with her because I didn't trust her.
Yeah, well,
She had
sure.
let all this abuse happen, and she knew what was going on this whole time. And she actually left my sister, that's a year younger than me, with my father after the divorce. And he wound up, who I come to find out wasn't my father's daughter. Like she had him with another man.
Okay.
And we found this out when we got older. But my dad went on to have 5 children with her,
Jeez.
my sister, who was a year younger than me.
Could say that last part again?
My younger sister, that's a year younger than
Hmm.
she went on to have 5 children with my father.
She had 5 children with your father.
Hmm.
Wait, what do you mean
He
she had 5 children with
he
your father?
started sexually abusing her when she was 4 years old. But when my mother left my father, she left her with him
And so she was getting impregnated by her father, your father?
for years. Yes, by my father.
But, and I mean, I can only imagine what were these children, did she carry them to term?
Yes, they were all born and they're all living and they're all messed up.
This is a mind-blowing story.
It is. It was very traumatic, and my dad ran. He ran from state to state from the time he divorced my mom and kept impregnating my sister, who wasn't his blood daughter, and he knew that. but they had to have 5 children together and they're all living. So I think the youngest from that one is like 29. She's 29 years old. It's a
So
very, very sad situation.
the crazy part is that the spirit, right? Remember, we have to think about this as kind of like a testing ground. It's like this is the laboratory, if you will. The spirit realm is like conceiving of the experiments. And so the
Hmm.
experiment in the context of what you're describing your family is that your mother would have decided to come together with your father, and that he would have incarnated as the abuser, and that the 9 children that were born, yourself included, would have chosen to have to overcome that abuse to see if they could go forth and whatever lessons they had planned to try to continue to live and grow through those lessons. So maybe they wanted to be more compassionate, more understanding. Maybe they needed strength, so they had to overcome early childhood trauma. Like those qualities that are very hard, you can't measure them. You can't measure compassion, right?
Hmm.
But you can
Hmm.
certainly see somebody who suffered a great deal, who's incredibly compassionate as a result.
Hmm.
And so it's crazy. Your mom turned a blind eye. Your mom would have been pre-incarnation. She would have agreed to turn a
Hmm.
blind eye to all the abuse of your father so that all 9 kids could experience what they experienced. And then
Hmm.
eventually, one of the daughters could wind up back involved with the abusive
Abuser.
father and carry these children as part of her own journey to see if maybe she could find her own strength or way out of it, or I don't know. I mean, we can't really
She's
know
not
what.
doing good today. She's I think she's schizophrenic, but she hasn't been diagnosed because she's just out there kind of floating around from place to place, taking, drugs or whatever,
Yeah,
drinking, because she's never really developed, you know, an adult life of, a good life. She's still in a very bad, bad place, dark place.
yeah. No, what you're describing, I can't imagine anybody's doing well in that construct.
No, no.
You're a remarkable
Hmm.
achievement. And
Yes.
and to pull it full circle, if you're successful in situating yourself healthily away from your husband
Hmm.
and really find your own joy in that solitude and then find
Yes.
healthy people to be in service for,
Yes.
like what a remarkable story.
Hmm. I have so much love for my children. That's why I think I've stayed so long, because I didn't want to be a single mom.
Yeah, I know.
I wanted a stable home for my children, which it wasn't a healthy home, but it was a stable home,
Which is it's
which
a
I
good.
never had.
I
I never
know.
had that.
And you did a good job at that. You did a really good job at that. But they're okay figuring out their own lives at this point.
Hmm.
Mom,
I agree. They're healthy. They're strong. They're all working.
yeah,
They're all financially okay. And
one of them owes you a new car.
hmm. Huh?
One of them owes you a new car.
Yes, I agree on that one. He's working on it. He just got a really good job. But then he also just found out he's the father of a little boy that he didn't know this girl was pregnant with his son. It was a little thing they had last year, and he created a son.
How does he
And he's
feel?
7 months old.
How does he feel? Is he
He's
involved?
totally in love. He
Oh,
got the test done. It
falls
came
in
out
love.
99.99.
All right. So
And
now
we're all just in love with him. He's a beautiful child.
I love a happy ending.
Hmm. And he's got a good job.
That doesn't
So
always work. That doesn't always work out so well.
isn't that amazing? It's amazing.
I gotta tell you, Patricia, I there's a lot of courage and strength and good fortune going on over there.
Hmm. I
Talk
agree.
about turning a lemon into lemonade.
Yes, I
You know,
agree.
I think it's beautiful. I'm really glad you
Hmm.
contacted me. I've
Yes,
enjoyed listening to this and supporting you.
thank you. I really am so happy I met you. I've met you and was able to find you.
Yeah, I know. People seem to come into my space when they're meant to come into my space.
Hmm.
And I've grown to accept. I don't almost ever know why they've come into my space, and then the
Hmm.
conversations start unfolding, and it becomes clearer.
Hmm. Yeah, when I saw you on channeling Eric, I'm like, I really want to meet him. I really want to meet Allan. I want to talk with him. So,
So now that that's established, and we've made kind of we have a game plan, if you will.
mhm.
It's just a matter of, I'll obviously always continue to support you, but it's a matter now of
Thank
you
you.
finding it's the strength to continue to go forth and execute on it.
Mhm. I agree. And I think it's time and it's here, and I have the strength to do it.
Feels like
I
it.
do. I really do. Mhm.
Yeah, there's if not now, then when? Like that kind of
Mhm.
energy. If there is a mantra for you, like a
Mhm.
repeating statement, let it be, if not now, then when?
Then when? Right.
Like if I wasn't to leave now, then when would I leave? If this isn't the right opportunity, then when would ever be the right opportunity?
Exactly.
Like if not now, then when? Like I wouldn't do it. If not now, it's got to be
Mhm.
now.
You have to create the moment and the time for it
And
because it's just not going to come out of nowhere, I believe.
it's being bizarrely presented to you with the least amount of resistance.
Mhm.
There's nothing interfering from you going forth with it.
Right.
If you had 3 kids that were under 10 years old, I'd be like, it's gonna be tricky. If you didn't have any money, this is
Yeah.
gonna be tricky. If you were super sick and dependent, this is gonna be tricky. If you hadn't
Right.
dealt with the emotional challenges of a difficult upbringing and felt a bizarre, a really intense kind of neediness, this would be tricky.
Yeah.
Not the case.
Right.
If not now, then when?
Exactly.
There's another expression which I love, which is, we didn't come this far just to come this far.
Mhm.
Which is,
I
you
like
have
that.
made it all the way here, but
Mhm.
not so that you would just stop here.
Sit there. Yeah. Right. That is so profound. Yes. I feel that really strong. Mhm. You're right.
All right, my dear, it's been a
Yes.
pleasure.
Yes. It's been such a pleasure talking to you and meeting you. And maybe in the future I can call you back and
You can
we
always
can
reach
have
out to
another
me.
talk.
Yeah, I'd
Okay.
love, especially when you have an update to share with me. I'd love
Sure.
to hear how you're doing.
Sure. That's wonderful.
Give me a big virtual hug. I want to feel your loving, nurturing
Mhm.
energy.
Thank you so much. I love you already. You're a beautiful person.
Oh,
So
you are
I
too,
can
my
feel
dear.
it. Yeah.
I love that. I feel it as well.
Hmm.
All right. I'm sending you a lot of
Okay.
good love, and I'm really
Thank
anxious to
you.
hear how things get on.
Yeah. I'm sending you lots of love and light also.
Oh,
Have a
beautiful.
wonderful day.
Thank you, my dear. You
Yeah.
as well.